Hello and welcome back to the Azeem Digital Asks all-round digital marketing podcast. I'm going to say brilliant 3 times. We've got a brilliant show lined up for you, brilliant topic and a brilliant guest. Talking all about how marketing and sales can align. Bonus, 4th brilliant. Troy Sandidge is my guest today. The usual boring stuff before the episode starts. Please do like, rate, share and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and then go and talk to your neighbours, dogs, pets, snakes, if you keep a pet snake, random. Before we get into the show, though, a more serious message from myself for once. Very recently, you may have seen in the news that there was a tragic event, a shooting that happened in Buffalo, which is where my friends at Marketing O'Clock, the podcast, are based. And what they decided to do to help out the local community that was affected there was to record a podcast episode with myself and many other people who've been talked about and mentioned or even appeared on the show before in the past, and put that behind a paywall. That will be out soon. I will share a link in the show notes. Please go and visit them. Check out that podcast. Make sure that you pay to get that. And if you do, they will match the donations up to $5,000 to help out the people who've been affected by that horrific shooting. And hopefully, things like this that we won't see and hear in the news. Again, I'm very hopeful that change is around the corner. So please do check them out. Okay, with that being said, I'm definitely sick of the sound of my own voice already. So, Troy, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Azeem, for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. When we connected straight away, I was like, I've got to have this guy on the show. He's absolutely brilliant. But for those who shamefully don't know who you are, would you mind giving a short intro to yourself, please?
Sure. I am Troy Sandidge, known around the world as a strategy hacker. I'm an author, Strategize Up, a podcaster, speaker, and put plainly, I eliminate complexity from businesses so they can create clarity to scale. So I just help businesses grow no matter who you are, no matter where you are. It's all about clarity to get to the growth that you want to achieve.
Love that. And this is why I think we're going to have a great episode. So we're talking all about how marketing and sales can align. So naturally, my first question is, what's the biggest issue that sales team have with marketing?
Oh my goodness. I had recently talked about this, and I call it the blame game. Marketing blames sales for things, sales blame marketing for things, lack of accountability, lack of clarity, lack of understanding, and lack of seeing the bigger picture of how you need both to coexist in a unified environment to actually get anything done. And I think when it comes to marketing, obviously, if you have the best things on sliced bread, but no one know you exist, you're not going to be able to sell anything. So obviously that's where marketing comes in to bring awareness and drives it in. And then you pass a baton like in a relay race to sales. And sales job is to, based off marketing doing its job of driving awareness, educating them, and helping them disqualify. It's sales job to identify them as a qualified lead, eliminate any other questions they may have, ensure that trust that marketing already established, and bring it to the finish line, complete the sale. We make the money, we grow, we do all the things, everyone's happy, things like that in the perfect world. The problem is that passing a baton. When do we pass that baton? Who's in charge of what when it happens? And the bigger question, what happens when it gets to the sales team and they don't convert? Do you blame sales? Do you pass the baton back to marketing to just nurture, which is typically what happens? But if the sales team doesn't communicate maybe where this person is in the buying cycle, where they're thinking about in their mind, how they view their organization, marketing may not know what content or what efforts are necessary to earn that trust or to identify and provide content when they need it most. And so I find that middle gap when they pass a baton is where the most tension happens because no one knows what to do, and that's where the blame game happens.
I love that. I love the way that you talk about passing the baton. I'm sure that either team would be the fastest to take it once the sales start rolling in. Naturally, then, my next question to you is reverse. So what's the biggest issue that marketing teams have with sales? I'm really interested to hear your answer here.
As a marketer for 12 years, and I've done it all in a lot of different organizations, SaaS, B2B, tech, manufacturing, did it even in other brands international for a while. The most common thing that comes up in a lot of cases that marketing feels like they're underpaid. They see sales, if they get one, they get commissions or they get bonuses or and more incentives on the sales team. And marketing, you're like a flat rate. You just kind of, well, no matter what happens, no matter how much growth you get, you a flat rate, buddy. That's all you're going to get out of the deal. So I think sometimes it's the fact that either you have the old style of marketing who never wants to claim attribution for revenue. We're only responsible for bringing awareness, and that's it. That's as far as we want to go. We live in the inbound world. We're creating content. We're creating content engines, social, video, all the fun things that people define. But I find that in a lot of cases, though, they want the additive bonus that maybe that sales team gets. And I think we're at a crossroad now with the pandemic has happened, and remote work is a real thing, and it's expanded, and there's just a smorgasbord of people doing multiple things. And multiple, it's kind of like, and I'm a big, I don't know if anyone listening is a big sports fan, but in NBA, there's really no set position anymore. People are playing multiple positions to get the win, to get the championship. In the same way with marketing, I think what hasn't evolved quite yet is that they're wearing so many hats, but they're not getting maybe that additive bonus that they want. And they're resentful. And now they get all the blame when the leads ain't coming in. And when the leads are coming in, they don't have any incentive to make any more money. They're at a flat rate. And so I think we just have to evolve how marketing is seen, the accountability and roles that marketing play. But I really, and this is just me, I'm only one marketer, I don't know a lot. I do think there has to be a conscious effort to quantify marketing efforts to revenue. Sales has that locked up. And depending on the organization, you don't find it locked up attributed directly to sales. And we got to find a way to do that to really evaluate and validate the ROI of marketing's efforts to really hopefully boost their profile and make the organization hopefully more wholesome.
Oh, I love that. That is a brilliant answer. And I have to just pick on one thing that you said there about the pay, because immediately that sort of ticked off an alarm bell for me. I was like, yeah, he's right. Like, I should be paid more. So my follow-up there, picking on your answer, if marketers were paid in the same way that sales teams were, what impact do you think that would have overall on the industry?
I really think marketing will feel the pressure and the speed that sales teams, sales reps, BDRs, SDRs have to deal with on the daily. I think that's the other part of it too. Marketing kind of is in this own little bubble, and they pass that baton, and there's like a whole nother sense of gravity at the sales team. I think if marketing felt that same pressure to drive that, a lot of the fluff that we see currently in the Twitterverse, on LinkedIn, some of these conferences would immediately go away, because now it's an intentional, more driven atmosphere, and some of the stuff that you kind of just do to just kind of, we had crank out X amount of content, X amount of conversations in that regard would be almost useless. It's really going to be more so about what are the margins, what are the KPIs, OKRs, all the other acronyms that marketing sales team use that we won't talk about right now, to quantify where we are in the process. And so I think it'll be more fast paced. And I think we will go more towards RevOps, demand gen, and sales enablement marketing teams than just generic marketing. It'd be very siloed specifically on what marketing is doing and what those teams are created from.
Yeah, I'm finding myself nodding furiously if you're watching this. I'm in agreement with much of what you're saying. One more to pick on your previous answer before we move on. So you mentioned there about, sales has got the sort of attribution side of things locked down, but marketing hasn't. And I agree with you completely. It's been a long-standing problem. So my question to you is, why do you think we as marketers haven't got that locked down?
For starters, I really think this goes to the top. It goes to leadership. They have to rewire how they see the marketing team. It's not set it and forget it by, set a few accounts, hire a few people, and just do it. They need a budget. They need an adequate budget to do everything they need to do, to track, to build reports, and not just be a hoarder of data. Use software that actually is going to create and give you the insight you need to make quantitative decisions for campaigns in the present and in the future. So I really think it starts with the leadership providing adequate budget. And I think with marketing teams, it requires you to really stay up to par on education and be aware of where you are in the ecosystem of providing the value to get the sales. instead of us constantly fighting about who's responsible for what, honestly, everyone on the organization is responsible for sales. I think that's a safe bet. However you want to attribute it, everyone is responsible for helping get into the finish line. Every touch point, even after the confirmed sale is confirmed, you have the accounting team and deliverability team and all those things, making sure we retain that client or retain that customer. And marketing and sales are the bloodline, maintaining all of that infrastructure from pre to during to post and so on and so forth. So I really think marketing in particular just needs more budget, needs more support. But I think we just got to be real about where we align. And there's no central focus. No matter what sales team you're on, there's a central focus of certain things that everyone agrees on when it comes to attribution or margins or however you want to go about it. Marketing is like, okay, I believe in video, I believe in social. I'm like, those are mediums. Those are bridges to get people to the website or to the conversations. I don't care. The bridges are always going to be different depending on your type of industry and organization. But we need to find an alignment of how we're measuring. How are we tracking this success? I have a partnership with Agora Post, and they were talking about, and I'm diving deep into it, but they were talking about, the biggest problem with social media marketing is that we have a hard time proving the ROI. And I think we have to find a way to prove marketing at a higher level that it's pretty much accepted for most of the majority of individuals. And that's where I think the gap is that we're not doing right now.
Yeah, strongly agree. Once again, I'm finding myself nodding away in agreement. A lot of what you said there will definitely resonate with the listeners. I mean, even on past episodes where we talk about budget, as you mentioned there, typically whenever things happen, marketing budget is the first one to just get on the chopping block. And COVID was a very big example of that, which takes me very nicely on to my next question. So in the olden days, pre-COVID days, everyone's in an office. Marketing can physically go and walk to a sales team or go and give them a call if they're not in the office on X day. How do you think COVID has impacted the relationship between marketing and sales?
This might be a weird hot take, but I think this remote situation on top of this pandemic affecting the whole world from a business perspective has allowed probably the opportunity of marketing and sales to really appreciate each other more than they did before, and probably working more in tandem together. Because the original thing is, it's kind of like, you're in the lunchroom, you got this group of people over here, this group of people over there, and that's always they went to. And so imagine you're in the same meetings and separate things, everything's always separate. Versus now, that's all been eliminated. If you're not getting the stuff done, you got to call a meeting with whoever you need to do to get in alignment, get stuff on track so we can get these W's. And I think that's probably helped a lot of marketing, a lot of salespeople to be like, I need your help. We got to come together. It's kind of like, the beginning of any like Power Rangers or like superhero or Avengers thing where everyone's disbanded and everyone's all have their own little mind. And then they realize we have to come together to save the world or save the company or whatever. And this is what happens. This event has served as a catalyst for marketing and sales to be like, I need you. And we're all going to work together to figure this out. They've never spoke the same language. I think we're starting to speak the same language, or at least translating it in a way to make sure that what our movements are doing on one end is making sure the movements on the segment get to where we need to be. But that's just my take based off the opportunity here. That there's so much friction and so much like things that you would normally have to deal with to have the conversation has been eliminated. So now it's just you and them. Everyone's on a Zoom call. Everyone's doing a phone call. Everyone's doing a Slack, Microsoft Teams, whatever. There's no excuse. Contact them. Where are we at in the process? Show me the reports. Show me the pain points. Where are the case studies? What language have you been using to convert them? And is that being echoed in the marketing? And the last thing I'll be done here, I think this has created the opportunity, and I've been saying this all the time as of like the last 2 years, leverage language to launch. Once we identify the language internally we need to speak so we can all be in alignment, is going to be a lot smoother. And once we recognize that the sales and marketing, though they're separate entities under maybe the organization, they're one team, vital team, to literally keeping the life force of a business going.
Yeah.
And when you think of it that way, a lot of this other stuff doesn't matter. Let's get in alignment. Let's make it make sense. Let's make it work.
Again, solid gold. I'm really, really enjoying this episode, and I cannot agree with you more about the language. That's such a key thing, certainly for me in the past. It's one thing that I didn't really put high on the to-do list when it came to working with sales teams, and the whole point of an internal and external language is spot on. So yeah, thanks very much for sharing that. Really, really useful. I guess, given that both sides there have work to do, I'm naturally leaning more towards, if I'm a salesman or woman, listen to this, salesperson, sorry, I should say, and I'm a marketer, listen to this, I'm going to be listening to this with a different mindset. What can both sales and marketing do to improve this relationship?
I think sales has to understand that, yes, you probably have a quota, certain people you got to do and everything else, and you're taking more of the risk because you're in the front lines, hitting that immediate rejection. But I think, one thing is identifying why are they rejecting, why are they not closing. And yeah, I know people say as simple as, they're hot, cold, whatever, and they're out, they submit it to their CRM and call it a day, Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever. But I think it goes deeper than that. And I always like to articulate the relationship status of buyers, advocates, and elevators. And I think it's more so for the sales team because they're coming into any conversation, I want to know in the first 5 minutes if they're a win or not. And if they're not a win, they're either demoralized if they don't get the win, and now they can't perform. It's a mentally taxating thing. But I think instead of that, go into the conversation of, I'm going to know the first 5 minutes of your buyer. If you're not a buyer, that's cool. I'm going to switch gears. Can I get you to be an advocate? An advocate, someone who's maybe not willing to buy right now, but they're willing to connect you to somebody else who may be ready to buy or give you that extra platform amongst potential buyers. Maybe they're not ready to do that yet because they don't know you. You hit them with an outbound message. It just was the perfect timing, and they chose to have the conversation. That's okay. You could be an elevator, which an elevator is what? Somebody who is just going to maybe engage, like the comment, follow you on LinkedIn, elevate your content in some type of measurement, and that's it. But an elevator can always be an advocate can always be a buyer, and a buyer can always be all three. And so it's just a process of sales team understanding, instead of becoming it's a, win or lose, it's a win-win because I still got this person on the phone or on a Zoom call. And in the first 5, I still can get value to determine people like you. Are you interested in what we're doing? If not, I can remove all of that from my process and save me time to be more qualified, right? Now, how does that translate with marketing? Marketing can actually help salespeople do that very thing. All marketing needs is the right amount of information and data to create storylines to either negate maybe negative or no's or amplify the trust to get a yes. And how do we quantify that? I don't see that happening as much, but I think that's what sales needs to understand and what marketing can do to help support sales in those endeavors, which will create amazing marketing content down the road if you close any of them as well.
Love that. And I love the Bay model. Definitely will be shouting that out from the rooftops. That is absolutely brilliant. I do have one follow up there before we move on and get towards the end of the episode. So generally, people that I've spoken to in the past, they 100% firstly need to listen to this episode. They're always very critical of sales, or sales don't do this, or sales do that. And one of the things that they say about sales teams is that they're very critical of marketing. So the website, for example, the website should say X, Y, Z. When they're asked why, sales teams say, I speak to customers face to face. You look at numbers on a screen. Very sort of, anti-mindset and not team playing. How would you advise a marketer who is working with a sales team or a marketing team working with a sales team to sort of offer the olive branch and, get them out of that solid mindset of, I'm going to have to get more sales because marketing aren't doing the job? How do you advise them to start sort of bridging that gap? Essentially, it's me, a long-winded way of saying, what do you think the benefits are of an aligned sales and marketing team?
I've been that marketer more times than I had a whole bunch of stories and moments and sales will come to my mind, so we're not going to go there. But I have had some pretty good success, and I think it really comes down to marketing understanding that you're in your own world that the salesperson is probably not. and it seems very obvious what to do and what they're doing wrong. But to them, like I said, it's a whole different level of gravity. Whole different level of gravity on the sales side than it is on the marketing side. No one, I don't care who you are listening, will deny that. And so I think marketing, the olive branch we need to do is to showcase how can I help them actually get more sales, get more wins. And I know marketers, you're like, that ain't my job. I kind of beg to differ because everyone on the team needs to work together to get the W, right? And I think it really comes down to salespeople know how to talk to people. What they don't know is how to match the stories and the messaging and the branding or the content that's been outputted constantly on these channels on the website to enforce and validate everything they're saying in that immediate conversation. Well, Troy, what do? How do I, as a marketer, help with that? Have you spent time with them on some sales calls? I guarantee you spend a week just being a fly on the wall and seeing the process, because most sales teams have a script or have a specific process. You're going to find relatively quickly where the holes are, where marketing can fill it in. Is that a 30-second video at this junction? Is that, hey, we have this visual. Hey, you know what? Forget the pitch decks. Let's just have a one-pager and just let it be very simple and concise. What are the 5 sentences we need to have address and have them say and confirm on this 15-minute call to close the deal? Marketing can help with that. Messaging, all of that. But we don't think we have the time because we think, hey, if I got 100 more social media posts this week, we're going to get more sales. Hey, if I got 100 more calls this week, I'm going to get more sales. And everyone thinks that, but the numbers say otherwise. We have to find a way to get it all together. I may hurt people's feelings, but the numbers don't lie. Did you hit your numbers for Q2 yet? Are you stressed about your AAR yet? I don't know. Only you know the numbers. But at some point, you have to understand and realize that it's my job to make them better. The sales team, it's my job to let them know what copy is landing with people and what copy isn't landing with people, because I get rejected every day. And that's enough where I can tell you, this copy ain't working. Bet. I'm going to reset it, redo it. Let's test it out. So now I'm seeing the sales team as the tester for the marketing to get better. And as the marketing educates people more, there should be less objections once it gets the baton passed to the salesperson, which means a higher chance of success. You can increase the higher chance of success. We're playing with house money now, baby. We're going to get our goals. And that's how it needs to be. Being a real, genuine team player sport. I want to be Kobe and you want to be Shaq. But hey, to get the championship, you need both players to be at their best to get that W.
Oh, I absolutely love the way that you framed that answer. And if that answer alone should be enough for people to literally turn this off once they've finished listening to it and apply that immediately to their work. And much of what you said resonates there. The biggest thing for me, and it might sound stupid, and I'm going to stop talking in a second because I'm sick of my own voice, but the biggest thing I did, which was really helpful for me, was to physically go into a warehouse and just see mountains of stock piled high and see those people working, putting things away and getting things and on the machines and stuff that I would never understand, because a number on analytics versus an actual human being doing that job, and you see the impact that both marketing and sales and everybody else in that team is huge. That is brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing that, Troy. Sadly, we are coming to the end of the episode. I could genuinely talk to you for hours about stuff like this. I'm probably going to have to get you back on for like a follow-up, and you can ask people if they've hit their Q3 or Q4 numbers. Before I let you go, though, where can people find out more about you? How can they connect with you? How can they follow you on social media?
Greatly, people can find me at FindTroy, FindTroy.com. So all socials at FindTroy, FindTroy.com. If you like this value, I talk a lot about this, especially the relationship status of Bay, my new book, Strategize Up. And I also too have a podcast called I Digress, where I bring all this energy and just get all nerdy and stuff and have fun and, build you back up so you can get more sales and get more growth.
Yeah, 100%. You should definitely check out Troy's podcast. I'm very glad that I did, because it's awesome. And you, my friend, are awesome too. That about wraps up this episode. I'm very glad we made this happen. Thanks very much for being an awesome guest. For my listeners and viewers, usual boring stuff, please like, rate, share, and subscribe. We will catch you on the next episode. Thanks again, Troy.